see how it's going down. And also on Dominic's side, it's got a better shirt than me on. Instant envy by me. Love it. Like the hair's matching the shirt, dressed to the nines. Gotta love it as we start drawing that opening 7.
Yeah, and this is, Rakdos Reanimator against Dimir, or I guess we can call it Jameer Death Shadow just to appease chat. For who knows how long we're going to be able to get the Jameer Death Shadow on camera. But this matchup is, it really is play draw dependent, given that the presence of how fast the Reanimator deck can present a threat. And Garrison really looking for cards like Force of Will, and I guess Daze doesn't work on turn 1 if there's a really explosive start for Dominic. But typically in these types of matchup from the shadow side of things, you really kind of have to mulligan to something like Force of Will, to just in case, because you kind of expect your opponent to be able to do something on turn 1 that's very, very powerful.
It looks like we've got a bit of a, one of those, maybe it's a 1 land, or maybe it's like the perfects if I draw this card, if it's on top of my deck from Dominic. And I think he's talking about that with Garrison. Garrison's giving it a bit of a, a cheer there, going, come on, keep your 7. Go on, have a bit of a risky one. Go for it. I promise you I haven't got any counter magic. I'm sure, I'm sure it will resolve turn 1. And he might not have a land, just petals in hand by the looks of it.
Yeah, we'll have to take a look. Dominic definitely looking for stuff like Dark Ritual. We're going to lead with Unmask. That's another free spell. Dominic does have quite a few of these kind of free spell, but be able to take a peek at the hand as we see a Thoughtseize, a Polluted Delta, a Brainstorm, a Daze, a Watery Grave, a Fatal Push. Not exactly what we're looking for in the opening here for Garrison, along with a Flooded Strand. Depending on what Dominic's hand looks like, if we have a turn 1 Reanimate spell, we might just take Brainstorm to make it so Garrison can't really top deck out of this. And if we maybe have a bit of a slower, honestly, you probably still take the Brainstorm anyways.
So I was about to say, in your expert opinion, we're definitely not taking the Fatal Push. Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, cool.
Dominic does have copies of Bowmaster in the main deck, so if you see that Garrison does point to the Fatal Push, you want to take that one? I don't think we're taking that one.
Okay, let's see if your expert opinion is right. Everything on the line, your reputation is all set on this here, and you still got one as Daze is the card that's picked. Well done, my friends. Picking.
No, I said Brainstorm, not Daze.
No, I was on about the Fatal Pushes, and it definitely wasn't Fatal Push. That's what you know,
okay.
In the expert opinion. But what can we do to follow this up now? Now we know the coast is semi-clear. Petal 1, Petal 2. Sacrifice first Petal, Entomb. Go find someone, put it into our graveyard.
Yeah, let's see if we have maybe a Reanimate as the leftovers here for Dominic, or potentially a land in either an Exhume or an Animate Dead. And I would imagine if you're doing this, maybe wants to go towards a Griselbrand, just to get that mass, draw 14 cards, maybe even find another way to put another creature onto the battlefield, just kind of overwhelm Garrison.
What about Sire of Insanity? How would that one work?
So we call that in the business the content play. I don't think it's the correct line for Dominic, but it sure is really good for us on camera.
I would love to see that one hit the battlefield. A long time since I've seen that one cast. Remember, for people at home, that is at the beginning of your end step. Each player discards his or her hand.
Will?
I love it when I'm right. Let's go. Please bring it. One more step, though. One more step. They've got to bring it back. They've got to bring it back from the graveyard. Got to get it into play. 1 petal to go.
Come on, Mom. Dominic. Let's go.
Yes. Chat. If you don't start going off, I'm going to be so upset about this. This is exactly what we're going to see turn 1. This was the risky line. Do you have Force of Will or not? Did not have the counter magic, and now it comes into play end of turn. Both players discard their hands.
We call this the content line, baby.
No, this is the W line. This is the one that's it. Dominic with that smile on his face. He's just like, that gives us the guns as well. Love to see it. This is exactly why we watch Paper Magic, ladies and gentlemen. Trigger end step. Can you discard your This is so crazy. Okay, cool. I'll draw my card. Is it allowed? No, cool.
To be honest with you, it might just be the correct line anyways. Like the players know the deck list. They know that there's really no way out of this Sire of Insanity. And yeah, honestly, it's not only the content line, but it's also the super duper fun line. So I appreciate it, Dominic. Thank you.
She's saying I got one right for a change.
Yeah.
Let's go. Garrison's just like, yeah, cool. Psych on a street wave. End of my misery. Here's a wasteland. And go. I'm at 6 life. Okay, that was a really quick game 1. Love to see that. That's good. And the fist bump as well. Thanks for not having any extra counter magic there. So we get to real quick game one there. Dominic takes it down. Let's see if we can get the 75s up on the screen for you all and see what sort of sideboard action we can do to kind of make sure that doesn't happen again on Garrison's side, or confirm that it does happen again on Dominic's side.
We're not sideboarding out the Sire of Insanity. Let me tell you that much, Will.
Oh, I'm so happy right now. But starting off on Dominic's side, he knows the matchup. We know the 75. We have access to our opponent's deck list. What cards do you like bringing in here?
So, again, we kind of talked about this earlier when we saw Dominic on camera before, but in the presence of the really heavy graveyard hate stuff like Leyline of the Void and Rust in Peace, you might want to go towards Dauthi Voidwalker and Sheoldred as additional threats. But, it really depends on like you said, players have to open deck lists. So we know exactly what type of graveyard hate that we're working with. So might not want to go towards those. But I mean, to be honest with you, there's not really a ton here outside of the threats. Like maybe Bowmaster to pick off an early Delver of Secrets could be something. Surgical Extraction, probably not something. And then I don't really think there's any targets for Wear Terror Serenity either.
Okay, let's move across to Garrison's deck. This is more important. Like, he's going to have the kind of the big hitter sideboard cards. What do you like bringing in here? These three surgicals are shouting at me right now.
Yeah, definitely wants to go towards the surgicals. Past that, we have some Hydro Blast, not really looking for those. Force of Negation, those are kind of slam dunks. Definitely want to go with those. The one Grafdigger's Cage, also particularly good as well. Maybe Sheoldred's Edict, because you want to get these fatal pushes out of the deck. So having another sort of answer to one of the larger creatures might be something worth going on for Garrison's side. And the counterbalance is actually interesting too. So you'll notice Garrison's deck list has a lot of ones, and the Reanimator deck also has a decent number of ones too. So you maybe want to go towards that counterbalance.
Yeah, that could be like play draw depending. Now we're on the play, it's kind of better on the draw. It gets a lot worse, so we're gonna kind of take that out of our deck. I don't hate that, especially as we've got quite a few cards we don't want in our main deck here. But players still shuffling up, so maybe we can get on some of the future events that we've got coming up. Where can you at home, if you're watching this, maybe one of these new NRG series events are going to come in your hometown or a state close to you that you can drive to. The first one's going to be Detroit in August 12th and 13th. We're going to have a 10K modern on the Saturday, followed by a Sunday 5K Pioneer trial. After that, we're going to move our way to, I believe it's Indianapolis. There it is. Saturday, that's going to be a 10K Pioneer. And on Sunday, another 10K, but that's going to be a team event. Format still to be pending. That's October 14th and 15th. And then finishing off our last event that has been announced, it is at Madison, November 25th, 26th, Thanksgiving weekend. That is going to be Saturday, 10K modern. And on the Sunday, 5K Pioneer trial. So if you need to get on the leaderboard, get yourself some points, try and get yourself an invite to the end of year 16-person 25K Pro Tour slot tournament. It's basically a mini PTQ. You managed to get there. But this is our faces, what we look like. My name is Will Hall. That is Devon O'Donnell. We're bringing you the final couple of rounds left. We've got the semis now before we bring you the finals. Players are just finishing up sideboarding. Devon, I didn't have it on my bingo sheet this weekend, but that was basically a turn one win, right?
Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, it really was. And again, we do appreciate going for the Sire of Insanity because it's much better for us in the booth. One thing that we didn't mention when we were talking about sideboards is Garrison actually has copies of Reanimate in his own deck, which I know you probably know where I'm going with this one, Will.
Okay, yeah.
If we can Thoughtseize a copy of Griselbrand out of Dominic's hand and then reanimate Dominic's Griselbrand, I really hope we get to see that.
Is that's on your bingo card, right? If you get that one, you get the full house. Okay,
yeah, that'll be my bingo.
Cool. Well, it looks like the players are just finishing the sideboard, so we're going to head down to that. We're just going to make sure, always double check it, and also make sure you got those 15 cards in your sideboard. You don't want to present the wrong sort of deck these days, especially with so much on the line. Remember, points for the end of the event, plus a big chunk of money. Dominic is living the dream as it's at the minute. He lost round one. That happens time to time. But then he decided, that's it, no more. I'm not losing. And has absolutely ran the tables, got themselves into the semis, and now one game up against Garrison. Garrison needs to kind of shore this up. It's the third seed, so unfortunately for them, did have to go second in that matchup, which kind of stung a little bit. But we get to go on the play now, and that can be kind of huge, right?
Absolutely. Like we said, play draw. Very, very important, and especially because Garrison has copies of, when the discard spell from Dominic happened, we saw Daze and we saw Thoughtseize, right? If Garrison's on the play, that game probably looks a lot different. You're able to start with the Thoughtseize, kind of pick apart Dominic's hand, and then you have the Daze back up on turn one. But being on the draw, the only thing that Garrison really has in game one is those Force of Wills. And now, in addition to those, we also are going to have the surgical extractions after sideboard. So it's one of these, classic situations where the graveyard deck is going to be a massive favorite game one. But once we get onto the sideboards, I kind of like Garrison's position a little bit more at post board.
Let's see if that pans out the way you said it. I have to agree with you on that. I do think that is how it will end up. Plan that, especially if we do something like an Unmask or a Thoughtseize, and we see it on the other side of the battlefield, surgicals in the hand, multiple surgicals, multiple counter spells, etc. But a lot to play for. This is Legacy after all. Crazy things do happen, and we saw it literally in that last game there as the turn one Sire of Insanity came down with no lands, by the way. There was no lands in our hand. That was a no lander into a turn one Sire of Insanity. The absolute high roll. Love to see it as we start drawing out in the sevens.
Yep, and taking a look at Garrison's hand, we see, I think I saw 3 lands and a Thoughtseize. Couldn't quite get a good look of what we have past that. And looks like Garrison's going to keep, and Dominic is going to go ahead and take 1 mulligan.
Do you like the dice that the players are doing us first here? This is a little trick that they do on the Pro Tour as well. They get the old dice out and put it on the table ready for the casters, so we know exactly how many cards the player has gone down to. Chat, let me know if you're just tuning in right now. Who do you want to win? Do you want to see Rakdos Reanimator Dominic get through to our finals, or do you want to see Garrison on Jameer Death Shadow get themselves to the finals? 1's for Rakdos Reanimator, 2's for Jameer Death Shadow. Let's see who's your money on. Who do we want to see into the final? Obviously, a lot on the line.
Personally, Will, I'm a big fan of the Jameer Death Shadow. It's the kind of the new archetype on the new kid on the block.
See, I like an underdog story. I like that Dominic started the get day off on a losing record and decided not to lose since. So I'm going to have to sit on the left of your screen. You're going to go on the right of the screen. Let's see how this goes. Plus, look at Dominic. Look at that shirt, matching the hair. Like, he's got everything going for him right now. It looks brilliant. But he is down to 6.
Yeah, this Reanimator deck, it does mulligan quite a bit because it really wants to find an explosive opening hand, something like we saw at game one, with the turn one Unmask you plus Entomb plus Reanimate. So really gonna, wants to see if we can find something like that, very similar to game one. Dark Ritual for fast mana, Entomb, way to put a creature in the graveyard, maybe throw in a copy of, a Thoughtseize or an Unmask or something along those lines. And it looks like Dominic is going to stay on 6.
Okay, let's see how we start off. Start off with a Thoughtseize. So we also get to have a little look at what is in the hand. It is a couple of lands, a double grief, Reanimate, and an Archon. Kind of an easy pick, I would have said there, even for me, who's not like the super confident legacy player. I think that it's quite an easy pick of what I would take.
Yeah, easily Reanimate here. Dominic not left over with a ton of good stuff here. Probably wants to go ahead and save the grief to be able to, on the turn that we're going for a big reanimation spell. So doesn't necessarily want to fire those off quite yet. So maybe a little bit of Drago here for Dominic, and Garrison's going to really need some kind of wants a threat to be able to put a little bit of pressure on Dominic to not give him a lot of time.
Okay, let's see. Ponder is going to say, and we spoke about which are ponders that you like. How about these? I think these are they old promos, like F&M promos? These are full art ones, I think.
Yes.
Could be mistaken.
I don't know. Player rewards promos. That's what it is. Okay.
Seeing, oh, okay. Cage coming down. That's a one of in the 75, but an absolute house in this. That means that we can't. Is it cards in your graveyard can't be the target of spells and abilities?
Creature cards in graveyards can't enter the battlefield from graveyard. Creatures in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield. That's the most important text.
Is that good in this matchup? I'm not quite
so.
sure. I'm not quite sure if that's going to be good. Now I'm looking at, do we have the ability to actually hardcast any of these spells? How many land are in the deck for Reanimator? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Six actual mana sources, but there's also 4 Lotus Petal, 4 Dark Ritual. So technically, theoretically, maybe there's enough mana to hardcast those. But, one thing that I do see a lot of times, and, we talked about this during sideboarding, depending on whether or not Dominic brought in the Dauthi Voidwalkers or the Sheoldreds, might just be able to start hardcasting those.
Okay, we're going to exile this Archon and get a grief. We're going to have a look at what's going on the other side in the hand, potentially. I think that's a surgical pull to the front for Garrison. Are we going to fire that off straight away? Yes, we are. That is going to target Reanimate. That's a good one to be targeting. Well, is it good in this situation, actually, with a cage on the battlefield? I guess it just shows it up a little bit more.
Yeah, you still might want to get rid of it just in case Dominic was, Dominic does have copies of Wear, Tear, and Serenity in the sideboard to be able to clean up this Grafdigger's Cage. So you're maybe worried about Dominic drawing a copy of that. And then if the Grafdigger's Cage leaves the battlefield, that kind of opens up the door for the Reanimate. So it does kind of make sense to just kind of get those out of the way, because that is the most powerful reanimation spell, given that it only costs 1 and the other reanimation spells cost 2.
So I did see when we're going through the deck that the Sheoldred is they've come in, but no wear and tears. I'm pretty sure that cage is staying in the battlefield no matter what. So I think we've kind of trimmed down to some of our more castable threats in the deck.
Yeah, I think I saw at least 3 Bowmasters. I didn't get a good look to see if there were Dauthi Voidwalkers, though. I think, okay, there was 1 Dauthi at least, and we got the 4 Reanimates. So definitely the Dauthies, the Sheoldreds, and the Bowmasters all coming in, which does make a lot of sense given the presence of the cage and the surgical extraction.
It's what they spoke about, right? We did do an interview with them. I think it was round 7 when they managed to win, maybe round 8. And they said that this is my plan. People are bringing in interaction for the graveyard. They're going to try and stop my big combo. If they don't, cool, I'm going to keep a bit of the combo in. I'll be able to try and win that way. But other than that, I'm going to try and play this more fair, grindy, mid-range game by just playing creatures and putting them on the battlefield.
Yeah, and specifically in the Death Shadow matchup, there's one thing that we always talk about here. The Death Shadow deck does tend to deal a lot of damage to itself. We saw a Thoughtseize already be cast, a Water Grave Shocked, and pay 2 life for a surgical. So the chip damage from things like Orcish Bowmaster and Dauthi Voidwalker is going to matter a lot more when the Shadow player effectively is starting the game, maybe at 10 life.
Can we just talk about how good that grief was as well, taking the only relevant card left in hand, and it was a Murktide with 2 fetch lands. But a pond off the top is pretty good. So we're not even shuffling. We want that card. Are we going to play another one? I think was the question here.
It was a Brainstorm. Garrison, I believe, kept the Brainstorm off the Ponder. So I wonder if we are thinking about casting the Brainstorm now. Maybe wants to wait till next turn. We're going to fire it off now. Interesting, because we know 2 of the cards there. I wonder if we wanted to maybe fetch before the Brainstorm, because then we can get 3 new cards.
I was actually about to ask you that. Like, what's the no? Don't play that yet. We've got to resolve the Brainstorm first. It'd be pretty good if it was play Ancestral Recall. There goes 2 cards back on top of our deck. Now we can play the land and just pass the turn back.
Yeah, I saw a spell off of the Brainstorm. I couldn't quite get a good idea of what it was. It might have almost looked like a Murktide region, but that's the best possible for Garrison here, is if we found a Murktide region off the Brainstorm, we could just slam that and try to get the race on before Dominic can kind of top deck out of this.
Yeah, I suppose what's Dominic trying to get here? I guess it's just land, so he can start playing some of his powerful 4-drops that are in the deck. We've got Greaves, we've got the Sheoldreds that we saw. Bowmaster might not go amiss here, but we definitely need to start getting some threats on. We can't just give Garrison all the time in the world here.
Yeah, Bowmaster's not bad. Land for Grief is not too bad. Even something like a Dauthi Voidwalker might not be the worst. And like you said, the Shadow deck does deal itself a lot of damage, and we see that here. So we're going to go for a Wasteland on the Scrubland, which unfortunately for Dominic, normally the Reanimator deck can function off of 1 or 2 lands pretty easily. But first, as a Grafdigger's Cage, you really want to start being able to hardcast your threats, and unable to do that.
Oh, Faithless Looting. Card I miss greatly. We get to draw 2 and then discard 2. Now we get to pick up our cards because our opponent might not know all of them that's going on. Looks like we're in the tank.
And with Garrison at 9, this Grief is only a 3-turn clock. So that is something to consider if you want to just discard a bunch of spells, keep lands and Grief, which we did discard 2 spells and we kept the Grief that we knew about in Dominic's hand. That might be what we're playing towards here.
Here comes another land. Fetch lander. Oh, we're going to go. How many fetchable targets did we say we've got? We've got 2. Oh, we're supposed to get a basic here, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Also, beautiful basic.
If this is a Dauthi Voidwalker, that's massive for Dominic, because that's going to put Garrison to 6. And then if Dominic top decks a land after that, that's just lethal on board right there.
Interesting. Finding a way through all this hate, if that is what we have got. It's just a 1. This is a ritual.
Oh,
Sheoldred me. Sheoldred me.
No, I think we know the last card is Grief, right?
No,
Still,
it's
Ritual
still
Hardcast
still
Grief.
pretty good. Oh, into a daze,
Oh,
rough,
right
rough.
into the days. Oh, that was the blue card that Garrison kept. I see.
Okay, there's a question for you. Why do we not hard cast that?
Hardcast
The
the
days.
days
Yeah.
because we want to put we want to put the Shockland in hand to grow a shadow.
Okay, cool. Just no, can't do that.
Yeah.
Cage stops us using Faithless Looting from the graveyard. And yeah, we just got past time out. That's a Force of Me off the top.
Yeah, Force not great here. Only 4 lands in play for Garrison. Unless there was another blue card that I couldn't quite get a good look at.
Land go. Here's the Petal.
There's a Petal. See if we got a Sheoldred. No Sheoldred here for Dominic.
It's got to be good for Garrison, thinking that here comes Wasteland, starts taking out some of these red sources. Obviously, open deck list. We know how many actual fetchable lands or mana producing lands are in the deck. As you said, there is rituals hiding out amongst there, plus some more petals. But Dominic not throwing the towel in, knows there's still like a small % chance that he's still in this. As Zach and I say that, obviously a Death Shadow comes down, going to be a 4/4. 2 shock lands on the battlefield there. So that means it can grow by another 6 if it needs to.
No, there's actually only 3 shock lands in Garrison's deck list. So if we can fetch the last one, that would be 2 fetches plus the 1 shock land. So we can grow by 5 at the most, which 5 is the magic number because that would still make it a 9, which is a 2-turn clock for Dominic.
I think Garrison knew that, and that's why he's played out that last fetch there. Even if we don't have a fetchable target, we can still, again, just do a point of damage to ourselves, as you were saying. See if they want to go that route.
Yeah, I would have to imagine you just go fetch, shock once, make it a 9/9, put Dominic down to 9, and give Dominic 1 more turn.
That Cage has done some absolute work here. We're seeing the power of sideboard cards, but then there's a lot of sideboard cards that are very good against stopping graveyard decks, right? Like there's a lot of them out there in multiple different colors. A lot of them tend to be artifacts in here. Dominic did kind of understood that something was going to come, kind of changed his game plan a little bit, but didn't really get there. And I think we're only moments away from getting a game number 3. And everybody knows I love a game number 3, especially this high level Magic.
You got to be a little bit careful though, because if Garrison does fetch all the way down to 4, right? So Garrison fetches to 4, puts Dominic down to 9. Maybe Dominic can try to resolve a Sheoldred. Sheoldred trigger puts Garrison to 2. Then the Sheoldred can trade for the Death Shadow. It'll be interesting if Dominic can resolve a Sheoldred here. We'll have to see.
I was thinking maybe then like an end of turn Bowmaster or something like that might have been able to do something, but none of that shenanigans happening here. But a good grip of cards here for Dominic. Doesn't look too happy with what he's got though. I think I see a Grief in hand. Didn't get a good look at the rest.
A chump blocker for a turn. Can kind of just throw that under the bus and chump block the shadow for 1 turn. I also can't really get a good grip of what's Dominic working with, and that is not going to be enough.
It doesn't matter, as we are going to get to go to a game number 3. Dominic will now get to be on the play exactly where he needs to be to give himself those extra percentage points that he needs to guarantee getting himself into that final. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the top 4. We started with 172 players this weekend, and we're down to the final 4. But we need to get rid of 2 more. We need to get to that final 2 before we bring in the finals and give you all the marbles of who is going to be walking away with not only the title, the tweet, but all those players' points and the money that comes along with it. You know, someone, in fact, they're all probably going to have a real good dinner already, but one person's dinner is going to taste a little bit better than everybody else's this weekend.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll have to see exactly. You know, we did talk about play draw mattering quite a bit. We're going to see the Reanimator deck on the play for game number 3 for Dominic here. So, you know, wants to get out under the gates as explosive as possible. May want to go back and change the sideboarding now that we saw that the Grafdigger's Cage and all that stuff was, well, I mean, we kind of assumed that was going to come in. But, you know, as far as that is concerned, I don't really know how many copies of Serenity or Wear Tear that Dominic really wants to go towards, because there's only that one Grafdigger's Cage. Those cards don't really do anything else outside of that. So we saw that the Voidwalkers, the Bowmasters, and the Sheoldreds all come in. Those are definitely going to stay in. Not really sure we're going to be changing a ton here for play versus draw.
I was about to say this is where the mind games start playing, right? Like they surgical, they see my deck, they've seen how I sideboard, they know I brought the Sheoldreds in, the Bowmasters in, the Dauthi Voidwalkers in. Do we then revert back? Because now there's a chance that they're gonna kind of change their sideboard plan to I'm gonna have a more creature heavy deck, and then I go back to my combo element. This is this is what I like about Magic. Like we're kind of like hedging, or do we hedge about against both? Do we still keep in some numbers of Voidwalkers, some numbers of Bowmasters, some numbers of Sheoldred, and then the extra little bits that we got for our combo? It's going to be pretty good. Let's see if we can go across to the Death Shadow 75. See if we've got anything here that's going to be play draw dependent. We did speak about balance, but we didn't see it in that game. Kind of Cage did a lot of the heavy lifting in that. I'm trying to have a look. Is there anything else here that we could nothing's singing out to me, nothing that you've said already. You spoke about the surgical extractions. You said we could kind of bring in the Sheoldred edict, and it's better than Fatal Push in this matchup. It's not like a great card, but it at least has targets. Force Negation, giving ourselves some more sort of counter magic, especially things that we'll be needing, because we've seen in that game number 1 how explosive this Reanimate deck can be.
Yeah, well, now that you mention it, now that Garrison has seen the sideboard plan from Dominic, is aware of all of the cards, all the threats that Dominic brought in, the Bowmasters, the Voidwalkers, and the Sheoldreds, might actually want to go back to something like Fatal Push. Not normally a card you would want to bring in against Reanimator, but when it has, what do we have? 4 Bowmaster, 3 Sheoldred, 3 Voidwalker, that's 10 targets. That's a good number of targets just for the 1 or 2 Fatal Pushes if you want to go towards that route.
It'd be interesting to see how the players want to go about it. I remember a lot on the line. This is game number 3. This is exactly what we all want. More paper magic brought to you. Both players finishing up shuffling. We might be taking a mulligan here or just finishing shuffling. We'll see if we get confirmation of that, because Garrison definitely has 7 cards in front of him while Dominic is shuffling all up in that great shirt that he's got with the matching hair. He has gone undefeated since round number 1. That's the only loss he's taken all day. And remember, on our backup feature match, which I'm going to ask the production if it's still going on or not. They're going to whisper in my ear. So it is still going on, and obviously we've got the mono black. It's down as mono black combo, but it's kind of like a mid-rangey. I suppose it is a combo deck. It is a helm deck at the end of the day, but it's got a lot of grindy elements in it with the Khan, and Will is 1 up in our backup feature match, and that is we're calling it mono black combo versus the Initiative Sam that we saw in the quarters. So we'll keep you updated on that one. And if this game finishes really quickly again, we will be moving straight across to that to give you all the most amount of magic possible in this round.
Yeah, that mono black deck is super interesting. You mentioned there is a combo in it, but I feel like a lot of times that I've seen it on camera, it's not really winning with the combo. It's usually just kind of winning with some Bowmasters here and maybe what's the 3/2 opposition agents over here, and a Sheoldred to kind of round out the curve. It doesn't necessarily need to win with the combo. Karn the Great Creator, just a good value card. So yeah, really, really big fan of that deck that has seemed to pick up quite a bit in popularity with the printing of Bowmaster, as a lot of the that card's really good.
Well, it's also Will. Well, it looks like while these guys are deciding what they want to do with their opening hands, we're going to bounce across. We're going to have a little look into what's going on over there. Remember, Will is currently undefeated. He has not lost a game all day. He went 6-0, double ID, got himself into the top 8, won the semis, won the quarters. Now is in the semis as 1 game up. As it looks like there's a lot of cards on the battlefield here.
Well, it's funny, Will, right as we talked about there, the mono black deck not setting up a combo a lot, that's a combo. That's what we call the combo.
Because no cards end up hitting the battlefield, right? So it keeps triggering or something like that. Do you want to talk us through this combo?
Yeah, Helm of Obedience is a weird old card. The gist of it is you mill cards until you mill target player until they hit a creature, put that creature onto the battlefield. The joke is that if your cards are getting exiled, you never actually hit a creature, which means you just mill their entire library.
And I suppose with Dauthi Voidwalker and the Leyline on the battlefield, we've got double insurance against that. A Trinisphere on the battlefield, locking everything up. Paying 3 mana to get and a land to get your Trinisphere on the battlefield doesn't look too good. So I imagine we might be seeing that mono black deck in the finals. But more importantly, who is it going to be against here? As we've got Rakdos Reanimator versus Jameer Death Shadow, and no turn 1 super explosive play from Dominic gives Garrison a turn to resolve this ponder here. How do you want to go about it? Let's have a little look.
We got a swamp and a Lotus Petal here for Dominic. Now, if correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Dominic mulled the 5. It was at least 6. It might have been 5. And we'll have to see. A ponder here from Garrison, and I saw a Street Wraith. Couldn't quite get a good look of what else was going on.
So there's definitely a surgical in that hand as well.
Okay.
So, one kind of hate piece going on, but this is going to be an end of turn a tomb. So we're going to get to find one of our big fatties, get it into the graveyard. But over on Garrison's side, this could be a nice target in the upkeep or in the draw phase to target it with that surgical.
Yeah, typically you don't want to use the surgical until there's a reanimation spell being cast. Like you want to get the most amount of value out of the surgical.
Yeah.
There are some situations where, like, if you're surgicaling, like we saw an example of where surgical, there's a wasteland and then you surgical the land and draw step to get the land out of their hand. But like the thing about them having a large creature in hand, you kind of don't mind them drawing that because usually it's not really that great in their hand, anyways.
We're kind of deciding which way do we want to go. Do we want to be going? We've got multiple targets here, right? To go in there. We could go the Griselbrand route. We could go the Insanity, Sire of Insanity route, if that's still in the deck. Atraxa, or just a straight up Archon of Cruelty. We'll see which. Well, I suppose it could also now post sideboard. Could be things like Grief. Could be Sheoldred. Could be Bowmasters. Could be Dauthi Voidwalkers.
I gotta tell you, I don't know if we'd want to entomb for one of those, but we're gonna go for an Atraxa here, and that is, like we said, there is the copy of surgical in hand. Maybe Dominic has something like a Grief or an Unmask to be able to take a peek and see what Garrison has. It's one of those situations where if you had a Grief or an Unmask, you might just want to fire it off on turn one, because if you can go Grief or Unmask before you cast the Entomb, then you don't have a window to get surgical. But now, even if you cast the Grief, then Garrison can just respond with the surgical, and yeah, your Grief's going to resolve, but your creature in the graveyard's going to be gone already.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that Garrison goes, yeah, sure, and taps, reanimates the Atraxa themselves. But maybe I'm living in a dream world. We'll see what's going to happen here. Here comes an Animate Dead. And as you said here, this is going to be the opportune moment to fire off this surgical target in the Atraxa. Dominic says, yep, cool. That happens. Here's he's like, I get to see your hand, right? And I get to look at your deck, take all the copies from it.
Well, you know what that means? That means we're not going to see a Reanimate from Garrison, and that makes me a little sad.
Well, not an Atraxa, but potentially, look at the hand. We've got another Entomb, another Animate Dead.
Yeah, the leftovers are pretty good here for Dominic. Can just go ahead and untap and fire both of those off. Does have access to 3 mana, so yeah, this is the kind of the ideal start here for Dominic. Says, okay, I'm going to go for my first wave. You have the answer. That's fine. You're going to need this. You're going to need to answer the second wave as well.
And it does look like at least one Wear and Tear has come into the main deck. So that is a little bit of different sideboarding that we didn't see in game number 2. Other than that, I do see more Voidwalkers, a lot of Bowmasters going on. So maybe that was one of the things that we kind of changed up here as we're going to shuffle it up. Just 2 copies of Atraxa left in the deck. How many is actually in the deck? 2. Oh, it is only 2. So, it's the only 2. That leaves the other fatties in the deck being Griselbrand, Sire of Insanity, and the Archons of Cruelty, if all those copies are still in it.
Yep, and Garrison, knowing the leftovers here being Entomb and Animate Dead, really going to need to try and find a copy of a Force of Will. A Daze does technically work unless Dominic does find a mana source. And Thoughtseize, that's a pretty good one, Will.
I'm just thinking, like, if this is a mold of 6, that was a pretty good mold of 6, having double way to get things into your graveyard, double ways to bring them back. And we're gonna fire off the okay, we're gonna try and do the Entomb. It's gonna get dazed. We're gonna take the last card, just leave Dominic with 2 beautiful swamps in play, and then Garrison's gonna play the watery grave for the turn, potentially. Yes, we are. We're going to take a bit more damage.
Really good sequence here for Garrison.
Are we playing a shadow as well? Don't do it. Oh my word.
Boy, that was a hell of a turn.
That's we need to get the chalk line out. That was a bit of a massacre there.
Advantage bar.
Jeez. Yep.
Yeah, where's the we got to get production on this Storm. We got to get an advantage bar for next event. But in any case, Garrison going to go ahead and fetch shock here, make the Death Shadow a 4/4. Dominic on 20. That's going to be a 5-turn clock. If my math still, I'm still okay at math. I think I still got it.
Look, this Jameer Shadow deck is absolutely going off. That's the idea. So you just call it Jameer, and you start hitting all these cards in the right sequence. Jameer, that's old school. Jameer is where it's at, ladies and gentlemen. Here comes a bit more damage to ourselves as we play another Watery Grave. Again, people just tune in. Maybe you're not used to Legacy. You're like, hold on a minute. But they've also got those really expensive cards. They're not going to take this much damage from their own mana base. That's slightly different when you're playing Death Shadows. You want to be doing as much damage as possible to yourself because you get to grow it. As we see this Death Shadow growing bigger and bigger as we cycle this Street Wraith, it is now an 8/8 on the battlefield. because we've got our life total down to 5. We don't have to worry about things like lightning bolts coming from Dominic's side.
Absolutely, yeah. This is, I don't like we don't like to call them early, but I think we might be in as what the kids call a garbage time, as we see an attack here for 8 damage, Garrison at 5 life. I mean, I guess maybe something like a ritual and a Sheoldred for Dominic if there wasn't an answer in Garrison's hand. There we get I think there's a brainstorm, a wasteland, and a delta left over. So yeah, really needs to find some way to answer this shadow. Looking at Dominic's deck list, not really any removal spells, nothing like a fatal push or something like a spot removal spell that'd be able to take care of the shadow. So really looking for I guess like Entomb Reanimate, but Reanimate at 12 is kind of dicey.
Well, Bowmaster can bring along some little chump blockers, right? Plus, as you said,
True.
I think Archon might be the best thing that we could do to get this off the battlefield, because not only does it deal damage, it's also a sack effect. Here comes a fetch land. Dominic thinking, what could that last card be? What do I need to do here? Ideally, a Bowmaster would be good, and it's the battlefield does a point of damage, gives us a chump blocker. If it resolves, remember, Garrison's got 3 cards in hand plus the 4 field draw for the turn.
Be like a Dauthi Voidwalker, but that doesn't even really do it because you take 8 from the shadow, go to 4, then you crack in for 3, put Garrison to 2, and then still have lethal. So it would have to be like Dauthi Voidwalker this turn plus something else to be able to block the shadow next turn, like a sequence of say Dauthi into Bowmaster, providing 2 blockers. That might do it.
I'm trying to think what we could do. So we've got no red mana yet. If we fetch. No, and I think Dominic also kind of realizing this. It's a very slim pickings. The percentage points of being able to take this game down and kind of live that fairy tale from losing round number 1 and getting yourself to the finals. It's slipping away ever more here. I think we've got a spell though.
I wonder if this is Reanimate. Interesting. We're going.
Oh, reanimate.
Are we
the
reanimating Street Wraith?
Yes, that's exactly what
I
we're
love
doing.
it. Absolutely love it. I think that's the only creature in the graveyard. We're gonna go ahead and respond with a brainstorm here for Garrison, and I mentioned that there was potentially like Dauthi Voidwalker this turn into a blocker for the shadow next turn. That line still works with Street Wraith because, well, no, I guess that's not true because you lose 5 life and go to 7, then you just have to chump block.
I think that was going through the head, I'll lose to removal spell if there's one in their hand. If not, I gain another draw step. But gaining that extra draw step, what more is it really going to achieve? I guess it's got I don't even know what it's got to be. I'm literally trying to think. We need access to 2 cards really, and we don't. Obviously, we can't do that in one turn, especially not of this deck. Faithless Looting would put 2 in our hand, but then they put them straight back into the graveyard.
Yeah, maybe if there was already a creature in the graveyard for Dominic, then you would have, access to a lot more outs. But given that Dominic's deck is really all about A plus B, and we don't really have either A or B. We just kind of have a bunch of C's.
Oh, we're going to surgical ourselves in response. So surgicaling it ourselves so there's no target, dropping our life points down to another 2, dropping us to 3. Means this Death Shadow grows to a 10/10. Is there a crazy line with Bowmaster can start getting us out of this? Jumps in, does a point, block, attack.
So you take 10, go to 2, and then go Bowmaster, put Garrison to 2, chump block with the token.
Street Wraith is drawn for the turn.
Okay.
This is gonna be a 12 power Death Shadow.
Xaxes.
It's gonna be game. There you go. Make it a 12/12. Handshake's going to be coming out any second now. There it is. Congratulations to Garrison taking it down, get themselves into the final. Dominic, unfortunately for you, you had a great run, my friend, after losing round number 1, not losing until this match. So congratulations to them. We're going to move back to the booth here. That is going to be it for our semi-finals. We're going to be able to come back real quickly with those finals. We're going to give the players a little couple minutes to shake themselves out, get the nerves off, remember what they're playing for here. Maybe we can get the prizes up on the screen before we go, just to show everybody at home what is on the line. This next game could have a large amount of money on it. In fact, it definitely does. There it is. Devin, this game is going to be what, a $600 game?
Yeah, plus all the points that we always have been talking about all weekend. The 30 points for first place compared to the 25 for second. And then you see the prizes as we go out, throughout the top 8, top 16, top 32. But yeah, players are really playing for those points. Every single point matters when we're going towards that end of the year championship.
Exactly, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that when we come back, ladies and gentlemen. But just stay with us. We're going to be real quickly, get the turnaround down. We want to reduce this downtime as much as we can for you all. We appreciate you all being here, watching the NRG Series 5K Legacy. My name is Will Hall. That's Darren O'Donnell. We'll be back super quickly with the finals. See you soon.